We don't have time for a skit. We got to get to it. Let's do this. The company behind Shell gas stations appears to have realized that global chaos might be bad for business. Plus, the Midwest flooded and Canada can't help but be super hot. Also, Temple University is banning tobacco products. From WHIP, I'm Maya Tejada, and this is your WHIP Weekly News Crackdown. Royal Dutch Shell announced on Tuesday that it will not renew its membership in a leading U.S. refining lobby due to differences in their positions on climate policies. Reuters reported that Shell announced in its Industry Climate Association review that it would not renew its membership in the American fuel and petrochemical manufacturers. The review cited, quote, material misalignment over the group's climate policy, particularly regarding the group's lack of support for the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement. Additionally, Shell has disagreed for months with AFPM's opposition to putting a price on carbon, low-carbon technology, and regulating renewable fuels. Aiming to increase transparency within the oil industry as a whole, Shell's chief executive Ben Van Beurden has more radically urged oil and gas producers to take action against pollution and climate change. However, recent reports have shown that Shell was one of the top oil giants spending money on climate lobbying that was, quote, overwhelmingly in conflict with the Paris Agreement. Given this, environmentalists are still skeptical of Shell's motives. We here at WHIP think they may just have realized it's difficult to sell gas if the world economy starts collapsing due to climate change. Whatever gets you to change, Shell. Speaking of climate change chaos, over the last month, massive flooding in the Midwest has exposed vulnerabilities in the United States' extensive levee system. Some have even described it as Swiss cheese. According to the New York Times, breaks from the surging water across Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, and nearby states have left large areas without even cursory flood protection. With the fear of more floods in the coming years, many people said that living and farming near the water might not be viable much longer without major changes. On the Midwestern prairie, thousands of miles of levees are an insurance policy against natural disasters, but they're aging. Many were never designed to withstand the abnormally high river levels seen in the last decade. The levee situation has become so grave that the American Society of Civil Engineers gave the country's levee system a D grade in 2017, suggesting $80 billion in investment over 10 years. According to the United States Army Corps of Engineers, at least 62 levees were breached or overtopped in the Midwest in March, while hundreds of miles of levees have been damaged. For our last piece of sketchy climate news, we're going up north. According to a report commissioned by Environmental and Climate Change Canada, our northern neighbor is warming at a rate twice that of the rest of the world. And worse, northern Canada is warming at nearly 3 times the global average rate. The report found that Canada's annual average temperature has risen by 1.7 degrees Celsius since 1948. In northern Canada, the annual average temperature has increased by 2.3 degrees Celsius. The report doesn't stop there. It also notes that increased levels of precipitation have been reported, along with higher chances of wildfires and water supply shortages. The report stresses that these changes in climate are due mostly to man-made emissions. In order for Canada to stay on track with the Paris Climate Agreement of 2015, the country, along with many others, will need to cut emissions drastically and very quickly. Canada's federal government has already passed a carbon pricing plan, which has gone into effect into several major cities. In Washington, concerns about national security have been raised this past week after a White House employee blew the whistle on some sketchy security clearances in the Trump administration. NPR reported that Tricia Newbold told congressional investigators that she and other staffers denied security clearances for 25 Trump administration officials, and that most of these recommendations were overturned despite some serious national security concerns. According to the Democrats on the panel interviewing her, staff denials were frequently overturned by senior officials to grant members of Trump's administration's access to classified information. Republicans released a memo following the interview, calling it partisan and suggesting that Newbold was unhappy with her work environment. Newbold said that for one official, named only as Senior White House Official 1, security clearances were denied after a background investigation revealed significant disqualifying factors, including foreign influence, outside activities, and personal conduct. She said that this denial was overturned by Carl Klein, director of the White House Personnel Security Office. Following the interview with Tricia Newbold, the House Oversight Committee voted on Tuesday to authorize a subpoena to depose Carl Klein as part of its investigation into the matter. Axios reported that Elijah Cummings, chairman of the House Oversight Committee, said that the committee plans to proceed with subpoenas for 4 other current and former White House officials involved in the security clearance process. Cummings also said that the committee will be prioritizing security clearance documents related to several officials from Trump's administration, including Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, and Michael Flynn. But those weren't the only subpoenas this week. After a House-imposed deadline for the release of Mueller's full report passed on Wednesday, the House Judiciary Committee voted to authorize a subpoena for Robert Mueller's full report on Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. The panel also voted to subpoena 5 former White House officials it believes may have received documents relevant to the special counsel's investigation. The Washington Post reported that House Judiciary Committee Chairman Gerald Nadler will wait to serve Barr with a subpoena and will first try to negotiate with him for the full range of Mueller's documents. For the full story of the report and its legal implications, check out last week's Crackdown. On Wednesday, former Vice President Joe Biden published a partial apology video on Twitter after 3 more women came forward to the Washington Post with concerns about inappropriate behavior. This raises the number of alleged uncomfortable situations involving Biden and women to 7. Several women have described encounters with the former vice president that involved unwelcomed touching and an unprofessional and startling level of intimacy. While none of the women have called their experiences sexual assault or harassment, many agree that the gestures have no place in professional settings. In Wednesday's video, Biden promised to be, quote, more respectful of people's personal space, but did not offer any direct apologies. The video was met with criticism both from accusers and from Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, who felt Biden didn't fully understand the situation and did not offer an adequate apology. Other women, including former White House staffers MSNBC's Mika Brzezinski and Me Too advocate Alyssa Milano, publicly defended Biden. Biden is still the Democrat primary front-runner in most public opinion polls. Well, that's enough of the outside world for one episode. What's going on at Temple? President Engler announced on Tuesday that Temple University will fully implement a tobacco-free policy for the start of the fall 2019 semester. According to the Temple News, the administration aims to adopt a tobacco-free, clean air policy for all indoor and outdoor spaces at Temple's U.S. campuses. This will apply to all tobacco products. The ban extends to cigarettes, cigars, hookah, nicotine-delivering devices like Juul, and chewing tobacco. Temple is choosing to implement this policy based on recommendations from the final report of the Presidential Smoke-Free Campus Task Force, which was created in spring 2017 and led by College of Public Health Dean Lauren Siminoff. Engler stated that the target completion date of the policy itself is July 1st. To implement it across campus, the university and task force currently plan to place non-smoking signs around campus, remove structures where tobacco products can be disposed of, and establish consequences for policy violation with the help of campus safety services. Winners of the 2019 Temple student government election were announced on Thursday. In the executive branch, BecomingTU came out on top. This is the first time Temple University will have an all-female executive board. President-elect Francesca Capozzi will be joined by Kaya Jones as the new Vice President of External Affairs and Larissa Banks as her Vice President of Services. Parliament winners were also announced. The new Parliament at-large members are Jessica Saunders, Drew Gardner, Amelia Rothermel, Issa Kabir, and Arshadullah Shaikh. The representative for Disability Resources and Services will be Jonathan Atencia. The International Students Representative will be Quan Tran, and the Multicultural Students Representative will be Wenting Ao. These results come after both RISE-TU and BecomingTU were suspended from campaigning until voting ended on Wednesday night. According to the Temple News, the Temple Student Government Ethics Board suspended both executive branch teams after each violated the ethics code twice. To read more about these violations, check out Temple News' coverage of the situation. Another wild week, another wild crackdown. I just made the dance.
I mean, you do you.
I don't know why that happened though.
You can do whatever you want.
Another wild week, another wild crackdown. Would you believe we cut out like 4 stories and it still turned out to be this long? That's all the time we have for today. Join us next week for more of the news that you care about. From WHIP, I'm Maya Tejada, and this has been your WHIP Weekly News Crackdown. Thank you. We're done.
Such a busy
This was a lot.